All right, everybody. Welcome again to session number 2 of Lady Egyptian, Introductory Lady Egyptian. And to those who couldn't make it today because of Chinese New Year and who will watch the video later, Happy New Year, Sinyan Kuala. And yeah, let's get right into where we left off last time. Namely, we stopped just before the reading exercise for uniliterals. Last time we went over all the one consonant signs at the end of the session. And the first task for today then would be to go through a few pages of examples to basically see how those uniliterals are used and also how they play together with the meaning signs, the determinatives at the end of words, to basically identify which particular word, which field of meaning we're talking about. I have a quick preview about the definite article because we'll need that one for the homework at the end of the session. And if we have enough time, I have a one-page on Late Egyptian spelling. Just why is it sometimes so flexible, or why is it so different from Middle Egyptian? If we get there, great. If we don't get there, well, there's always another time. And towards the very end, I wanted to show you what's prepared in terms of homework. Before we go there, any questions from in between, anything that came up between the last session and this session that we need to discuss? This time I have another screen next to me, so I can see mostly like nods. Go ahead. All right. Then let's just do that. So how is this going to work? You know what? I'm going to go off of full screen mode, and I'm going to try to type as people call this out. And I would just ask to go around. So for example, first example here, the word on the left in Egyptian, how would you transliterate that? And then if you can, how would you read the Coptic? And if you know what it means, even better. So yeah, let's just have everybody do one. Volunteers to the front, please. I'm looking here.
Well, I can go first if you want.
All right. Yes, Ralph.
So the first one is transliterated just R.
Okay.
Coptic ro, which means mouth, I think.
That's right. Mouth in, at least in Middle Egyptian, also often used for like spell, or the older books like to translate it as utterance as well, the thing that comes out of the mouth. All of those are legit, but the most common meaning, of course, mouth. Now, is it R only, or is it R Aleph? I think a case for the letter can be made, because if you look at the Coptic, it's a ro with a short O, short omicron. And that normally indicates a closed syllable. So you'll find it in some books, you'll find it as R, in some books you'll find it as R Aleph. And in our case, Neveu actually does this. He puts it in parentheses. So either way, I wouldn't say it's wrong. Either way is correct. What does Lesko have? I see you have Lesko out.
I know, I was just looking it up, but I got the wrong volume. I don't remember what I gave.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry for bothering. I just have a doubt. How did Rasmus identify that the particular sign is representing R? Is there any alphabetical chart that we have?
Yeah, the one from last time. This one.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I didn't get time. I will definitely try next. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, that's the one that you want to have handy. The words I picked are all written with uniliteral signs, which is not that easy because a lot of words actually use multi-consonant signs. But I thought, let's start off easy. Let's just use these. So all of these should be doable. And in this case, what you have is you have an R, and then you have a determinative stroke, because this thing actually stands for a picture of the mouth. And the determinative stroke is to indicate, this time we really mean the word that means mouth, what is depicted here, and not just the letter R. The letter R, for example, without that stroke would be used for the preposition R, like in Coptic, erok to you, erof to him. That would be spelled just with the R. And if you want to indicate that it's actually the word mouth or saying, then you use the R plus the determinative stroke to indicate that's exactly what it is. One of these, essentially. Yeah, so R or Ra, if you want to use the Egyptological pronunciation, actually the real one based on Coptic must have been something like Ra, so that is good.
And Lesko does use just the R like the older Middle Egyptian tradition,
It makes sense. You know what? I'll put both.
for what it's worth.
Any of these are cool. Okay, let's do the next one. Thanks, Ralph. Who wants the next?
I can take the next.
All right, go for it.
So that is Ren, RN, transliteration, Coptic Ran, and it means name.
That is 100% correct. Let's see. Can I actually for transliteration? So yeah, it's name. How is it put together? Again, the consonant R, the consonant N, because Egyptian in general, we'll talk about this a bit more, but in general doesn't write vowels. So it's just R and N. And we know from in Coptic it's Ran. To some other considerations, you can reconstruct it as Rin in a closed syllable with the tone on it. And an I in Old Egyptian becomes an A in Coptic. So this must have been Rin at some point in time. Now, what's the little man at the end doing here?
That's the determinative. That's telling you from which, let's say, group of meanings the word is. And so it shows a man eating or maybe pointing at his head. So that's used for all kinds of things that have to do with the head, like eat, drink, but also think. And yeah, that basic group of meanings.
That's right. Eat and speak, 100% correct.
Speak,
So,
right?
right. Anything to do with speech, with activities with the mouth, has that determinative. I'm not aware of another word, but often they can serve to another word that's RN, probably just because I don't know enough vocabulary. But often these are also very helpful to what is it? Distinguish between homonyms. So if you had two words with the same consonants, what determinative comes at the end helps you identify the correct one. Okay, great. Thank you. Who wants the next one?
I can take it.
Thanks,
with
David.
you.
Mhm.
This is Sket, so H with horizontal stroke and then T.
That's right. In H bar. Let's see.
H bar.
The easiest way how to get that. So I'm gonna, yeah, oops, nope. That would be manuel decodage. Should look like this. That's what you wanted, right? Oops.
T.
Yeah.
And it means belly.
That's right. Belly. And it survives into Coptic as
As a hair.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So basically the way this is spelled again is just phonetically the sh sound followed by the T. Probably in late Egyptian, or probably with certainty in late Egyptian, the T wasn't pronounced anymore. So whatever they said must have been a lot like he or he already, just like in Coptic. And then again, the determinative stroke to indicate that we're really talking about the word belly, because that supposedly is an animal belly here with I guess that's a tail at the end. But yeah, that's what's being depicted here.
Could it be the digestive tract or something? Just
Could it be the
like
what?
the gut? I'm wondering if it could be like the gut, or I'm just speculating.
No.
But
Good question. There is a fantastic website that's called Polychrome Hieroglyph Database. I forgot what exactly the abbreviation is, but you can use it. You can find it with that Google term, PHDB or something. Almost sounds like some kind of pharmaceutical. But there you can see what colors they typically use for a hieroglyph, and that's very good to confirm or reject hypotheses about what it could be. That's a fun website to look at. Lots of pretty pictures of hieroglyphs and colors. Cool. Thanks, David. Let's do the next one.
I can do that one.
All right.
It's pet,
Mhm.
PT.
Indeed.
Coptic is pe, and that means sky or heaven.
There you go. 100% correct. A few words on how it's built.
So pretty much the PT as our, phonetics, and then the determinative, which is, I guess, the sky.
Right, it is the sky.
sort of the sky.
So for any words with the indication of above, you would have this one, like an image of the sky with its corners, basically, where it's touching the earth. And you'll find that in multiple words, but definitely always in pe or pet for the sky.
Maybe
Alright.
like a simplification of the goddess notes.
I wonder, actually, the same thought crossed my mind too. Is that related? I guess, right? I mean, you always see her stretched out over the earth,
Mhm.
touching on both ends with feet and arms. So maybe, could be. All right, great. Thank you. Perfect. We have our first page. Let's do the second and then pause for questions. It's getting a bit trickier, of course, with each example. Who wants the next one? Thank you. E.T., you have your hand up? Oh, no. No,
Really?
that's
I
just
must-
my cursor,
must have-
sorry.
Okay. But I mean,
Since you're on.
okay. I mean, okay. It's at, so it's INT.
That's right. Let's see if I can find my transliteration keyboard. So ein and t. If you don't have the transliteration keyboard, you could write it with a lowercase a for manual decodage. And like you said, it's pronounced at in Egyptological. Okay.
Just the only one I really know. The Coptic was, wait, A, I guess. But I'm not fast enough to look up what it means.
Okay, so this one has multiple meanings actually. That's interesting. So original meaning I think is room. Then that meaning shifts to house, and that's what it means in Coptic. Ebe is the house. And it can also mean, I think, something like department. For example, in the word of brewery, that's an ad of beer. That's a brewery place. I've also seen people translate it as bar, but I don't think I'm not sure if that's correct. Let's put it this way. But essentially, it starts from room and eventually becomes house. That's what that word means. What's the last part after the RT?
Again, that's the determinative, and that, yeah, I mean, that shows us it's from buildings or rooms.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, by itself, it's read pair for house, but here it's just used as a determinative to indicate this RT has to do with house. So at for house. Very good. Thank you. Who wants the next one? Let's see. I have something in the chat.
I can do it.
All right.
So
Oh,
it's,
thank
yes.
you. Thanks for pointing out that database. PH, what's it called again? No, I clicked it away. Sorry, my bad.
The phrp.be. So apparently it's in Belgium.
That's great. Thanks for looking it up. Appreciate it. Okay.
So the second word on the page here is HRW. Heru, I guess, would be the Egyptological pronunciation. And it means day.
That's right.
You should be able to type that with a regular keyboard. Yeah.
Right. I just realized. Thank you.
So the first three signs here are uniliterals, with the curly one standing in for the quail chick. And then the fourth sign would be a determinative for the sun, denoting day. And then the last one is that sign meaning it is what it is.
Right.
I guess.
That's right. And you could
So it refers to the sun disk, representing literally the meaning of the day.
That's right. And you could abbreviate it like this. So it would just be the sun disk plus the determinative stroke. There could still be Haru, but it could also.
But wouldn't that be ambiguous then? Because that could also be read as Ray or Ra.
Exactly. So having the HRU, HRW in front makes it absolutely clear which word is meant. This word is often abbreviated, where you just replace some of the signs with like a slanted stroke in hieratic. All these spellings are hieratic spellings. If they look odd to you because you're used to a Middle Egyptian in hieroglyphs instead of hieratic signs, that's intentional. I basically put them in the way that you would typically find them in papyri, where they tend to be more spread out linearly then stacked up neatly in boxes, like you would normally find them in a hieroglyphic inscription on stone. So that's intentional. So
Yeah, really, I have a little remark to Rasmus's comment. When there are no phonetic complements, and it's just the sun disk with a stroke, it can also be read. So the day can also be meant, but the reading would be raneb, which is a common expression in Middle Egyptian. So not just heru.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, would look like, that's a great point. So basically, yeah, you would have the sun disk.
You have too many keyboards, Aurelio.
I do. It's still giving a Coptic, isn't that annoying? Egyptian, let's try that. Ra, there we go. Let's see if it actually does what I wanted to do. Z1. Do you put the three, the plural strokes then, Marshall, or do you
Oh no, just neb, just neb. Yes, like this.
Right. And it should be sitting on top of each other. I'm not sure why it doesn't do that. I showed you guys that nice little video on how to do it. So let's see, use all. Does it do it? No, it still doesn't do it in this case. Oh, because wrong font. Bear with me. That's interesting. I'm absolutely in love with these new fonts that actually allow you to stack them up properly. If you don't have too many fonts. Okay. This is not working. All right. Apologies. These should be stacking on top, but I just can't figure out how to select the font. Oh, I do know. Let's do it this way. Show fonts. Haha. Egyptus. There you go. That's what it should look like. So that would be what Marshall just mentioned. Raneb, every day. That is still being used in Late Egyptian, even though the normal word is maybe more heru, or probably haru, or maybe haru. If you look at the Coptic, I don't know, had you mentioned the Coptic, Rasmus?
Yeah, I think I just briefly mentioned it, but of course it is the standard word for day in Coptic, and I'm sure it has variants in the differing dialects. Yeah, in Bohairic it's eho, and in Fayumic it's ha'au.
Wow, impressive. Okay, yeah.
I just looked that up.
Awesome. And in all of those, the R is gone in the singular. If you look in the plural, the R shows up again. So that could make you think there was something like ho-u or something, or ha-u. So with the R becoming silent at the end of the syllable, maybe. But I don't want to go too much into the phonetic reconstruction. Christian is much better at that than I am. So yeah, let's leave it there. Very well done. Thank you, sir. Who wants the next one? Oops, somebody raised their hand. Randy, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. The transliteration would be G R H with a dot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Coptic is a shor, which would be evening or night.
That's absolutely right. Kjorich, I think the H is still pronounced, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, evening or night. That's right. 100% perfect. And what do you make out of the rest of the after the GRH?
So it's like the first determinative is like a sky with a little lightning bolt, presumably, like with a hand touching the earth. And then I've never seen this variant with the sun with the single stroke after it. I mean, I guess just indicating that it's a part of the day. But I had always assumed that the sun determinative was like for, like, you know, Heru, like the 12-hour portion of the day, whereas, you know, night would you know, like the 12 hours for the night, like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. wouldn't use that. But that was just pure speculation on my part.
Oh, that's really interesting. I had taken it as the sun disk being in there as an indication for time, basically, any kind of time word. Just like, for example, in Unut hour as well. That being said, if there's a correlation, that would be really interesting. I'll keep an eye out for that. The ones I picked here are all taken from Ramses.online, so they're actually attested. But as to the frequency, like if night is more common without the sun disk, that's a really interesting thing I've never thought about. I'll check it out. You might be completely right. All right, very well done. So yeah, Decoding in Coptic. So you see a lot of words survive into Coptic with minimal changes. And I'm hoping by now, those of you who are new to hieroglyphs see the principle. So it's always like phonetics in the beginning, like here ein and t, or here HRW, or here GRH. And then you tag on what field of meaning things belong to. And actually it's very similar to how Chinese characters are built, where 90+% on the one side or on top have the field of meaning, and then the rest indicates the pronunciation. Egyptian does the same thing. And once you're used to it, it actually feels much more complete than a purely phonetic writing. Okay, let me look at the clock. 1:23, we're doing quite okay on time. Next one. Thank you so much.
Can I try?
Of course.
Yeah. E, the extreme left is E, then T for tango, then U, and R. Then it comes a triple N. The wavy structure is triple N, N for Nancy. And the next, the last extreme bottom right hand side, I could guess it could be Y, if I am correct.
The one at the bottom here. Okay.
Yeah, the top right hand side I cannot identify.
Right. So you got a tricky one.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the Coptic, I don't know, did you have a chance to look at the Coptic alphabet? Do you have an idea how to read this one?
No, not as of now.
No worries. So it's basically your own. This is a Y, is like an I sound, or in IPA it would be a J, so basically a Y, and then double O, and then this is an R, just like in Greek. So your odd. So way less than we have in the hieroglyphs. So what's going on here? Actually, this one's tricky. The triple waterline, it could be 3 N's, like you said. However, normally Egyptian words are not that long. They don't have that many consonants. And there's another word which has triple waterline, which is just a word for water. And that's what it is in this case. It's a determinative. So this stands for water. This is a picture of a canal. This here actually also related for things that have to do with the earth. So this whole thing at the end is actually determinative. So the word itself is only this part. How could you possibly know? The only way to know is by looking it up in the dictionary, if you're new to it. The Coptic can give you a clue, because you just see that there are not that many sounds left. But otherwise, you just wouldn't know. I mean, in all fairness. Okay. It means canal. Oops.
Well, I have a little remark on the triple N's. So I noticed that when there were like 3 N's in a row, for example, Sejm NN, for example, something like that, with the dative for the first person plural, they did not write 3 N's. They only wrote 2 to avoid the confusion between the water determinative and the N's. Well, it is relevant for the Middle Egyptian. I don't know what was happening in the late one.
It's very cool. Thank you for pointing that out. I haven't observed that yet, but keep an eye out for it. So you're saying when you have like a word that ends in like 1 N and then you somehow add 2 N's, they basically only write 2. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Also, in the chat earlier, they're wondering if there's a mistake in the. It should be iteru in the Egyptian hieroglyphic, not itur, but iteru.
It's very glad you point that out. So normally the W actually comes after the R, different from what I spelled here. If you look it up in Ramses online, it's really spelled that way. Why, I am not completely sure. You're correct. Normally I would also transcribe that with a W at the end, if at all, but not in the middle. Why several scribes it caught my attention too. Why several put the W in the middle? Not too certain. And that brings up a good question. So if you're trying to transcribe a word now, especially if you're new to it, and you don't have that experience yet, where you go like, wait, this is weird. The safest way would be to look it up in Lesko and see how it's being transcribed there.
Yeah, can we pronounce it as itru? How to pronounce it? Quite a bit complicated.
I think that would be fair. Yitru, I guess, is fair, and it also represents the Coptic fits. Like if it had been Yatru, I'm just gonna make this up, and anybody of our specialists stop me if I got it wrong, but I would assume something like this in actual pronunciation, and then this thingy here. Essentially, that gets weakened, that becomes maybe just like a glottal stop, and so it becomes like yatu, and that's how you get the yor in Coptic. That would make some sense, because the A sometime around Ramses III, an A in Egyptian shifts to O, to an O sound. So yeah, itru I think would be fair, unless somebody else disagrees.
What happens to the W at the end then? Like, do you expect that to drop in Coptic?
No, it's a fair. You know what? I really want to look into that. Do you have an opinion on it? Because I'm still, the whole plural thing where lots of W's disappear still vexes me, and I haven't figured that out yet.
Well,
I would like to mention that you can go on Wiktionary and look up these words, and they often have very nice series of reconstructions of pronunciations for different stages of the language, and you can really sort of find a lot of information in there. So if you just type in, yeah, exactly, Wiktionary, it'll reconstruct often the forms. If you unfold, if you click more to the right here, you can see how they reconstructed for different stages. And so the stage we are dealing with here is the late Egyptian stage, I guess, or medio-late Egyptian. But you can see here how it develops from the old Egyptian reconstruction.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great.
This is what I was thinking, is that when it was actually written, it was made more sense to have the T over the R just in a block form than the more linear form.
You're
yes,
right.
But when you get to a stage of the language where the T isn't written anymore, it's understandable that they would perhaps try to, or accidentally write it in the wrong place.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Honestly, I was perplexed by it too, and I kept it because I saw it in more than one document that the W had switched places. But as to the Y, I'm not so sure myself. But this is a great call out, Rasmus. In terms of like, this is how the Egyptological pronunciation would be. We just pronounce this one as an I, and then you put a little A in the middle, so it becomes Iteru. You're just trying to sound it out. And since we have the Coptic, you can like work your way backwards and say, hey, in late Egyptian, it must have been something like Yar. Whatever happened to the W, maybe as an intermediate form, Yatre, and before that, Yatrao. Now, the further you go back, the more speculative it becomes. Because here you can sort of still make inferences often from like uniform transcriptions. We don't have it for this word, but for other words. The further you go back, it becomes a little bit speculative, but still, it's instructive. All right. That's, by the way, I mean, I would say advanced Egyptology. We're going over right now, like, how do you roll back 2,000 plus years of time to reconstruct the phonetic shape? I would recommend to anybody new to this, don't get lost in that, because it's easy to waste too much time on that. I've done so. Right now, I'd focus on learning like how is it spelled. So
as far as transliteration goes, Aurelio, I would also say that when you're looking things up in a dictionary, the spelling's off, the transliteration's often a bit flexible.
yes.
Like as you say, you're using the late Egyptian on papyrus hieratic spellings. So it's JTWR, even if you don't write the determinatives. But a lot of books will translate that as just ITR. They won't write the W at all.
Which is not a dumb
like
idea.
And that is what Lesko does for the meaning of canal or river.
Oh, cool.
And then they distinguish, there's also a distance, like a canal length or something, that's spelled the same way in Egyptian. but they will transliterate it as ITRW to distinguish it when they're doing the transcriptions. And that's just something modern Egyptologists have made up, I think.
Awesome. Thanks, Ralph. Let's take a quick look at that together, because I wanted to show that to anybody who's new to Lesko anyways. How do you use Lesko? I think that's time well spent, so let's spend a quick moment on that. Lesko itself is super expensive. It retails, no, it doesn't retail because it's only available from one bookseller in France, Francois, at Meret Sega. At least that's the only source I know. And it goes for, I think, just below $200. So I think it's entirely forgivable if you just want to download it directly from archive.org, because that's where it's available for free.
To be fair, that's not a lot of money for a academic dictionary.
Unfortunately, you're right. And comparatively, it isn't. So now you can, at least on the Mac, you can, I'm not sure how this works on Windows. You can have the table of contents activated, which is nice, because then even though this thing is just a scan, it's not searchable at all. It then gives you like the alphabetic transcription on the left, and you can just go straight to the right section, because you have to keep the Egyptian alphabet in mind in our modern sequence. So Aleph, and the reed leaf, and the Ein, and the W, and the B, and the F. So it doesn't follow the sequence of our alphabet. So it takes a bit of getting used to. You need a different alphabet song, basically. And once you have that down, and you know that, where were we? We were on the reed leaf, so pretty much at the beginning. So you want to be in the sequence, in the region of YR. I'm sorry, IR.
You want IT, it's a little further down.
IT, right? And for some reason it doesn't like me now. Okay, never mind. I'll just go there manually. Oh, I'm on the, wait, what am I doing here? This doesn't make sense. Sometimes you have to scroll around a little bit. So we're at in.
It's down, it's near the end. T is near the end. So you're scrolling the wrong way.
Go again, near the end?
Yeah, T is near the end of the
Oh,
alphabet.
He's almost the
You're
last
scrolling
letter
the
of
wrong
Egyptian.
way.
Yeah, I completely had my wires crossed.
There you are.
Okay. So now we're getting closer. There it is, actually.
No, that was it.
That was it. There you go.
It is there. It is there.
There you go. So I want to show you
Yeah.
how to use it, and I completely failed. But okay, that's fine. Here we go.
The
So,
order is
yeah.
confusing.
Ralph, to your point, I mean, as you can see, guys, the W is here. It's not at the end, but maybe for space.
I think it's just the matter of the organization of the signs, because the wow is a small sign that takes only a quarter of the square, and
Right.
the R is white, is the white sign that takes two like bottom quarters. So yeah, it would be more convenient to put the wow above with the T than to make a little R and the big wow that takes the middle of the bottom half.
Good point. It looks
Could be.
more pleasing aesthetically, no doubt.
Yes, and that was a very important thing for Egyptians, yeah, especially in hieroglyphs.
Very true. So that may be part of it. What do we think of the distinction between iter for river and itru as a measure of distance? That is interesting. I mean, you can see that this one here is spelled with the walking legs. So that was the point I was making earlier, that by what kind of determinative you pick, you can distinguish words. That's nice. However, as to why the W is not pronounced here and it's pronounced here, I don't have a strong opinion on that, honestly. And unless somebody has, I'll just park it. But it's a great observation. Thanks, Ralph, that Lesko thinks these are actually phonetically two different words.
Yeah, I agree with Kathy. We should talk about the reading direction here.
Oh, good point. So reading direction, this one goes from right to left. The examples I gave you are all from left to right, just to line up nicely in a modern document. All hieratic texts you'll find will be right from right to left. Hieroglyphs, of course, on stone can go either way. but basically for most late Egyptian texts, they're going to be in hieratic. Since they're hieratic, they're going to be right to left. So what Lesko does here is actually closer to, or that's what you normally find in reality. Great call out. All right. Hey, we made it a few, like what, 2 pages in? Haha. Okay. Any questions so far? Or is it clear to everybody? Any questions on the underlying principles? Looking at my second screen. All I see is like, go on. Okay, all right. Then we do that. Somebody I haven't heard from yet for the next one.
I'll try.
Awesome.
Rebecca here. I had trouble getting in tonight, and eventually I found it. So I'm really absolutely a beginner here, which is why I'm trying. So the knife is an E. Then the strange disc thing is a R, and underneath the R there's a P, and then IRP. Now, IRP. I ought to know this, as Rasmus will tell you, because I'm learning Coptic alongside him, except that I don't know it. Now, IRP. Give me a clue, Rasmus.
It's a beverage.
Oh, it's a drink, wine.
That's right. Perfect. You're absolutely right. This is actually a reed leaf. You can see it better if you look it up in the database.
Oh,
This is like
silly me.
no worries
Yes.
at all. So you have reed leaf for well, typically it's really at this point in time it's probably a vowel marker, followed by an R. Actually, that's a mouth that's being depicted here, and whatever the P is. If you want to, I think the Uniliterals on Wikipedia, they have a description what each sign stands for, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, now quick there on, for some reason on my Wikipedia, half of it is blank. Now I've got a very, very old MacBook. So either I'm being completely stupid and what looks like a blank is in fact continually a R, or I haven't got the right program in my laptop, but that, don't worry, I'll get back to you another time. Now let's look at this interesting picture here. Do you think this could be 2 amphorae filled with wine? What is it?
I think it's some kind of drinking vessel. Anybody else have worn that? Or I think that's what it is. It just basically depicts.
Yeah, I assumed it was amphora, but I didn't actually look it up.
Oh, I'd love to know. Either that or it's 2 boiled eggs, but I think it looks more like to be amphora.
As one would have for breakfast with the wine, yes.
Yeah, I'm just lowering the tone really, so that everybody will realize that it's okay not to actually know very much.
Well, this was perfect. Thank you. So yeah,
Well, and we all have our toy names for the hieroglyphs.
true.
So I propose to be known as boiled eggs from now on. Alan calls them a pair of wine jars.
You get to know horizontal horrors and bird on a stick and a few others as we go along. So plenty of
the Polychrome Hieroglyph Research Project that we referenced earlier calls it W21 twin wine jars.
There you go.
There you go.
And now I'm going to show it. I mean, we're going to be ending up going over time anyways, so might as well. In the good tradition of the predecessor course. So what's the website again, Rasmus?
phrp.be.
One day I'll remember. Today is not the day. There you go. And then all you need is the group
W21.
Vessels of stone and earthenware. There we go. Isn't that fun? W21. Here you are. And then you see it in all its beauty. So like Rasmus says, twin wine jars. And here you can see what they actually look like. depending on the artist and during what time the art was made. So this would be dynasty 18, just before the time that we're looking at. This is the 19th dynasty, so now we're actually talking about the time that we're looking at. This is kind of helpful. Thanks for asking. All right. Nice stuff. Next one is tricky. That's why I said check the Coptic.
I can take it.
All right.
Okay, so first is dotted H,
Oops.
second H,
Yeah, also known as Pikachu H.
Pikachu H, and then I'm not sure if we're doing Qs or dotted Ks.
I think
I tend to do Qs, but
yeah,
dotted
me
K,
too.
okay.
But the transliteration keyboard wants a K dot, so it could also be a Q. Mhm.
And then T, but this is a trick word,
Mhm.
and there's actually an N between the H and the K here,
That's right.
which the Coptic cues you in on, which is a henke,
Okay, that's right.
and it means beer.
That's entirely right. Here we go.
Nice
Perfect.
theme. Nice theme, Aurelio, on a Saturday night.
Yeah, good selection, huh? We're getting out the drinks early. Now, what's happening with the N?
I think the consensus is that because an N is a long horizontal character, that it messes up the beauty of this little quadrant of letters. And so they just leave it out, assuming that, of course, everyone knows the word beer and they know how to say it.
Right. At least that's the consensus, that they were just writing what's really necessary to recognize the word. Most Egyptian words, I would claim, are spelled out properly. I mean, that's nice, actually. Most of the time, what you need to know is there a few common words like hanket, and also the word for human, ramich or remich, are missing the middle nasal. The N, or in the case of ramich, the M is never spelled, and you just have to reconstruct it from Coptic. That's just the way it is. Luckily, those words are in the minority, but I wanted to include at least one. So yeah, perfect.
And this determinative, I assume, is a jar. Looks like a jar.
That's right. It's just a jar of a drink. All right, perfect. Well done. Let's do the next one.
Can I try once again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, H, just a minute. H, then B, then S, sugar, and it is U. And
Yeah, good.
H, B, S, and U, and the second last I am unable to identify, and the last one should be sh.
Why do you think so?
But because but it is a there are three rectangles, so last two I am unable to.
What you say? Okay. Not a bad idea. First principle. Okay. Take a look at the Coptic. Oh, I have to give you that one. So this is an H sound, and that's a verb. So chavos. This is like in Russian or in Greek. That's basically that's a s, a sigma. So chavos. Any idea what it means?
Milk.
Good guess. No, I had milk on my list initially, actually. It's too funny that you mentioned that. But no, this one is cloth or clothes. And it is a bit confusing because these last two things here are determinatives. So the sound part only goes to here. And it's actually only HBS. What is this? This is indicating basically that this has to do with cloth, and this one is plural strokes.
So we are we not counting the third last, that is U?
We're not.
Oh,
That brings up a really interesting question. Why not? If you look in Middle Egyptian, the W is not there. And this is something you find a lot in Late Egyptian, that they're adding what, if you come from Middle Egyptian, looks like random W's. a lot of scholars dismiss those and they say that it's just added almost like filling space or something. I beg to differ. There's a really interesting paper out by a gentleman named Marwan Kilani. And what he did is he basically compared words where we have the hieroglyphic writing and you have the Coptic, and sometimes also foreign language transcriptions, say, for example, in cuneiform. And he found that there's a correlation between words that have a back vowel, like an O or a U in Coptic, and that extra W in late Egyptian. There's a fascinating theory that this could have to do with actually there could be sort of like a vowel marker for the tonic vowel in the word. It's not a perfect correlation, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if that's the case here. But you basically have these words where a W shows up in the late Egyptian script, and now in the Middle Egyptian, in that case, we typically leave it out. Honestly, personally, I do this. I mark it just because I think they mean something. They didn't just write it because they had extra ink. They had some reason why they put it. It meant something to them. But I think most people, however, just transcribe it like this. HBS, because you know from the dictionary that the W basically is not a root consonant. This is a bit confusing at the beginning. You'll get used to it really quickly, but it's a very legitimate question. And the two determinatives, they just indicate that this has to do with cloth, and this sort of that they thought of it as something collective, like more than a single thing. That's why you have the plural strokes here.
Really, I have a little question. So when you were pronouncing the Coptic, you said like huos. So
Right.
so beta would be pronounced as a w. Why is that? Why it's not like in kaine beta, which is a b?
So yeah, phonetically, I would pronounce it like this, basically. It's the same sound that you have, for example, in Spanish in beber, not the initial B, but the intervocalic B is pronounced more like halfway to a V. And why is that? Because you sometimes see it oscillating in Coptic with F. So sometimes you find words spelled one way or the other, which seems to indicate that the B is already very close to some kind of a, what is that? Is that fricative sound?
Yes. Bilabial.
So it does not concern this shift from a B to a W sound in Koine and then Byzantine Greek. There is, as I recall, there is a name, well, a Latin name which is Victor, and it is written with a beta. So by the time it was written, it was already a W sound, as it seems. So is it like a tradition to pronounce it as a W sound? Because we were pronouncing it B all along while we were studying Coptic at university.
That is, now I have to ask our Coptic specialist. What do you guys think? Because honestly,
I'm not a specialist, but funnily enough, it reminds me of Hebrew, where I think if you see a but, it could be a va, not a w. So,
but there has to be a dagesh with the w and b.
Not in modern Hebrew.
Not in modern
just
Hebrew.
know from the placement in the word and in the syllable. So word initial bet is a B unless it's from a foreign word, and word end is V, and so through that you figure out.
And I'm probably completely irrelevant, not knowing anything about it, but isn't Coptic and presumably Egyptian is Afro-Asiatic, isn't it?
Yes.
And so is Semitic. Anyway, I'm just talking nonsense.
I mean, b and v are related sounds in a lot of languages, so it's absolutely conceivable that it would have changed, or maybe dialect-wise it could have been different.
It is definitely the case that earlier Egyptian B becomes this WV type sound at some point, but whether it occurs earlier in Coptic than it does in Greek is perhaps a difficult call to make. But I think that the beta glyph always in Coptic represent something that is at least somewhat fricative and not a plosive B. At least that's what Alan says James P. Allen in his Coptic and Egyptian phonetic dissertations.
Can I ask a quick question
So,
about this?
basically, a
Because-
parallel development happens within Coptic as does within Greek, but I don't know which one is first.
Well, can I just ask a quick question? Because I'm confused. Just hearing the sounds, wa to me is more like oh, wa, was but and va are completely different sounds.
Okay, well, we're right in the thick of it. So let me try to summarize. So in total, we're dealing with 4 different sounds that come into consideration here. Hang on. Let me try to do this. If I can find a keyboard that actually does what I want. I'm just using the slide here. Ignore that it shows the correspondences here. I'm not suggesting that B could have stood for these. So just because I need a writing space. So in total, 4 relevant sounds. There's like the stop B, basically a voice stop in English. Then there is the V. Then you have this is like a semi-consonant or a glide, basically, like wow. Essentially like a U used before another vowel. And then you have this thing in between B and V, which is the W, which is like halfway between the two. What I'm proposing, based on occasional variation in Coptic, that, for example, the word for could be spelled with a beta as well. What I'm proposing is that this could have been this thingy here. You don't see it, I think, oscillating ever with OU, which would be the way how to transcribe the wow sound. So that suggests that it's either a beta or even a fully fledged V, so to say, because it oscillates with F. Now, if that's accepted for all Coptic dialects at all times, I have no idea. That goes way beyond my pay grade. So if you were to pronounce your Coptics with hard Bs, I don't think you're making a major mistake. I think this one here points me in the direction that it wasn't a full B anymore, but something more V-like. That's personal opinion. Could be completely wrong with this. Although Alan would probably.
Thank you very much.
That's a great point.
That's sufficient.
So yeah, that's where that comes from. And then you see something very interesting in Late Egyptian. Sometimes B also oscillates with M later in Coptic. And then sometimes when they really want to write a B, they write B and then P in combination. So something is going on with the B sound in Late Egyptian already. I'm looking at the clock. We only have 5 minutes left. I would say let's finish the page. I completely underestimated how long we're going to spend. But I think that's okay. I think this is very enjoyable. I see, Macha, you have your hand up. Do you want to do the last one or do you have a question?
Yeah. Oh, I can do the last one.
All right, go ahead.
So it's Ahet, Aleph, and dotted H and D. And then we have determinative for a canal or a ground.
Right.
And plural strokes. So it's Coptic, it's Yohe. And I think general meaning is a field.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Aleph, emphatic H or H dot, T, and then multiple determinatives. This one to indicate that it has to do with the ground or the earth, and then just plural strokes because for some reason they felt it should have plural strokes. Maybe in the sense of ground or land, which is more of a collective noun than individual lands. I'm not completely sure, but I found it in multiple texts spelled this way, so I kept it, even in a singular use. Yeah.
Really, so sorry for taking that little time that we have left, which is like 3 minutes. I want to make a remark about this Ahet. So the spelling that you see here with the first Aleph, then dotted H and the T is an unconventional one, because for some reason in hieroglyphs, the tall signs, they have precedence before all other signs for some reason. I don't know why. So the more frequently seen spelling would be the first H, then an Aleph, The same thing goes for S. For example, in the name of the night boat, which is masketed, and it would be written as semketet for some reason. And also there's the word uj, and that would be an irrelevant. So yeah, so for some reason these signs have precedence before all others. Yeah, so the first H is a more frequently seen spelling.
Whoops. And for some reason it's not cooperating. That's annoying. Paste. Well, you guys know what I'm trying to do. So you're basically saying you may find the emphatic H in the beginning.
Oh yes, yes.
Okay, you just have to imagine it because for some reason I can't do it right now. But yeah, you have
But
those.
again, I'm speaking for Middle Egyptian, not for the late one here.
I mean,
yeah, and can I say something just for those who might be watching this on YouTube, hopefully in about 20 years' time? Do we all know that Aleph means like sound?
So that gets really tricky, and thanks for pointing that out. So that the Aleph originally, that sign in like Old Egyptian, Middle Egyptian, definitely had some other consonantal quality. In the earliest loan words, it transcribes like an R or an L in Semitic languages, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Then we read it as a glottal stop for a while, and if in late Egyptian it was anything else than just a vowel marker, I think is still up for doubt. So it may very well just have indicated that there's a vowel, or it may still have been like a glottal stop, like an the glottal stop that we make between vowels. That may be it. But
oh, sorry, I was just thinking of Hebrew. I thought Aleph just meant A.
Well, that depends.
Aleph doesn't mean A in Hebrew.
Okay, what does Aleph mean in Hebrew?
Actually, pretty much the same thing that Aurelio describes. It's either a glottal stop, particularly if it's at the beginning of words, but if it's at the end of words, then it's really just a placeholder for a vowel that isn't written. So, well, in the word Aleph itself, it's a glottal stop. It happens to have a vowel A behind, an R vowel behind it, but it could have had any other vowel if you wanted. Just can't think. Oh, I've got an example. Ima, mother, is spelled with an aleph at the beginning, but the vowel behind it is an E.
Right.
Oh, wow. It's just that when I learned the Hebrew alphabet song as a kind of first year Hebrew person, which is what I am, I thought aleph meant A, B, C, D.
Gotcha. It's really a consonant, like Iti was saying. It's really a consonant, and it could have different vowels behind it. Funny enough, no, I'm not going to go there. I was going to go into Yiddish spelling now, but I'm going to save that for some other time. But yeah, it's really originally a consonant, but in modern Hebrew, it's not pronounced that way anymore, right? In modern Hebrew, it's essentially just placeholder for a vowel, or maybe people with a strong Levantine pronunciation. I don't know.
I think, yeah, strong Levantine pronunciation is where I would expect a clearly pronounced aleph at the beginning. Otherwise, it's going to depend a bit on what's in front. If you've got a word starting with an aleph coming just after a consonant, then it's probably not pronounced clearly. And an aleph anywhere other than the beginning is just not pronounced. Like in the word Abba, father, because we just had mother, there's an aleph at the end. I've never heard that pronounced ab-ah or ab-ah or something like that.
Right. I think at the end it's silent, definitely.
Yeah, at the end it's pretty much always silent now.
And that process,
but probably wasn't at some point, or rather definitely even.
And that's the thing. I mean, the same thing happened in Egyptian at some point in time. This was a full consonant at some point. Then it became silent. When exactly? I mean, there are some texts in Old Coptic where some extra signs are being used that correspond to the older Ain and maybe also to the Aleph. So if you look into that, you could make an argument that at least in some variants of Coptic, those two sounds were still around, maybe both merged into a glottal stop. But in all positions, in all dialects, who knows? I think we can, for our purposes, just treat it as a vowel marker here. to the point that Marshall was just making a moment ago, is the spelling normally with the aleph before the H in Late Egyptian?
Yeah. I see that the spellings are all as you've stated, and I'll send the evidence in the channel, because I certainly
It's
I
interesting.
have certainly come across the spelling that I mentioned more often than this.
It's fascinating. I mean, it basically shows you that the orthography really lives, and you do see changes from middle to late. So thanks for pointing that out. And yeah, we're not going to get to the spelling analysis in more detail this week, hopefully next week. Before we close, I mean, we managed a few pages. Before we close, how do we want to continue? I think next week we should just have Horace and Seth, so it doesn't break off completely, would be my proposal. I see some of the Horace and Seth people nodding, so that's good. And then we can continue a week after next with this. I would propose we just go through the remaining 4 pages, if everybody is cool with that. I don't want to stay on spelling for too long, but since this is supposed to be a from scratch, from beginning course, I think it's well invested time. Plus, we're finding a lot of interesting stuff as we go along. So if somebody feels very strongly to the contrary, let me know. Otherwise, I would say in 2 weeks, we continue with the remaining 4 pages and then take on the next topic. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right, all. Well, then, thanks so much for another great session, and see you all in 2 weeks. Or if you're on to our Horace and Seth story, then see you next week, same time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aurelio.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye. Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Bye.